It's extremely nice, and I'm so happy to see such a big crowd over here. To be very frank with you, we're having a lot of international exposure recently in Kaunas. Today we're having a huge Belgian businessman and diplomatic delegation visiting our city, so that's partly the reason why I wasn't able to attend this conference from the morning sessions and from the morning speakers. Anyway, better later than never, and I'm here today to share some experience we're having as a city, as a region, to both foster innovations and also the way how it creates other opportunities for both businesses, residentials, for residents, businesses, and guests to move forward. To put this whole presentation into some kind of a context, and framework, I'm going to be using one of the frameworks which is usually used for the smart cities, which to a high extent is extremely linked to the fact and to the topic we are discussing today. Smart cities in general is one of the ways where our city probably will be moving in the nearest future. Smart cities also helps a lot for young people to express their ideas in a very democratic and effective manner. It's not being utilized to a full extent yet, however, we are trying as much as possible to do that. So, jumping straight into what I have prepared for you today is, at first, how the innovation is being created in the city by using its urban planning, by using its clusters and industries. One of the most specific examples, which is going to come into reality pretty soon, is Aleksotas Innovation Park. For those of you who are not locals here in Kaunas, obviously the word Aleksotas might not mean too much, but generally, to put it in that way, it's one of the territories in an extremely close proximity to the city center, which used to be a factory, an aviation factory, which is no longer used for its initial purpose, and the society is trying to find ways how to regenerate and how to create a new function for this territory so that it would serve the society to its full potential. As the city, we have few ideas how this territory could be used. And finally, we settled that Aleksotas Innovation Parks should be situated right there. There's a territory of 32 hectares where companies of our desired industries, of our desired qualifications, of our desired quality levels will be developing their R&D solutions, prototyping, and creating high-value adding jobs. You might be asking if Kaunas lacks these kinds of urban territories, since we already have the free trade zone, since we already have the region where you potentially can buy a land plot to build your area for either a manufacturing plant or a logistical plant. The answer is absolutely, we do need this. We have come into conclusion by discussing this idea together with national agencies such as Invest Lithuania, by discussing this idea together with people from the free trade zone, realizing that the link connecting academia, the universities, our vocational schools, and the place where the product is finally commercialized, being the free trade zone, right, where the companies are creating their products, misses one essential point. The place where ideas can come into reality. And universities can teach you how these ideas can come to reality. Vocational schools can do that as well. But the place where you can prototype, the place where you can do these sorts of activities was missing and is still missing. However, it will be solved once this place comes operational. Do these kind of things help cities to brand themselves and specialize in some specific fields? I assume yes. One of the examples is Odense, which probably some 20 to 25 years ago realized that the industry they were in was not the industry which will be needed in the future. What they did is that they rebranded and rescaled their old harbor, their old maritime industries into something which is becoming the future of our economics, which is becoming the boost of our economics, and is the robotics. Now, if you ask someone what is the specialty of Odense, a lot of people will answer that it is the robotics. That's what we want to do with Kaunas as well. We want people from other countries, people from other cities to clearly identify Kaunas with few special industries, with few special sections where we have edge over other cities, other regions, other, let's say, competitors in terms of doing these kinds of businesses. Moving on to whether education and employment can help to both foster innovations and to make our city as smart as possible, we have to move into one of the very recent examples of our city. It's that the Smart City Department within the University of Technology was established, and we are hoping that soon it will yield some results both for our city as well as the competencies which will be needed not only here but also in other cities, and we'll be able to export this knowledge and these competencies to other places as well. We believe that from the city's point of view, we have to look into the whole ecosystem of players, into the whole ecosystem of academian background that we're having here in Kaunas to realize where our true potential lies and is. We feel that creation of such departments in the long run will be needed not only for us but for others as well, which creates a market opportunity for our experts to share their knowledge and sell their knowledge. In terms of education, we're also doing big researchers here within the city, trying to identify the main places where our kids are going to schools. And it becomes clear that some areas within the city are, let's say, more favored either by the parents or simply by the fact that the distribution of schools is a bit unleveled. So there are very clear accesses within the city where students are going to school. And then if we look into the kindergartens, we also see that most of them are being concentrated in some specific areas or town. You may ask, why is that important when we are stimulating and fostering innovation and in general growth or effectiveness of the way how our children are spending their time? The answer is that if we look into the map, I do not have this map with me here, but if we look into the map where premises for spending their hours after school are located in the city, they would not fall into the same places where the schools are. Meaning that if I'm a kid, if I'm a pupil, and if I end my classes, let's say at 3 p.m., I would have to go whatever 5 kilometers away from the place where I'm standing right now to attend football, to attend basketball classes, which creates logistical problems both for parents to transport their kids to some specific locations, and it clearly shows how innovation and a smart approach to cities' problems can be used to both make our younger generation spend their time effectively on sports, which is widely known through researches, helps to reduce crime within the city in a long period of time. And it again emphasizes the ways how innovation can help us model the society in the way the public sector wants. If it's agreed on the national, on the municipal level, it can help to both reduce social problems and enhance social benefits coming from the potential of these kids and our younger generation in general. Thirdly, can we create knowledge-intensive companies in the city? What measures are needed to do that? And can they foster the innovation in the region? Not sure if you have heard, but as an agency, as Kaunas In, we are organizing and we are administrating the public program for fostering startups here in Kaunas. For some period of time, since 2015 to be honest, there was, to my mind, a very simple program, which again was effective to some extent, where companies were applying to get some national, to get some municipal grants to, well, try their ideas, to create their first prototype and all that. However, since the number of beneficiaries and the ones getting the benefits was rather small, we have come up with the additional idea how the benefits could be given for the society. And so now, instead of giving the fish, we're giving the fishing rod. We are organizing a lot of networking and accelerator lessons for these startups to basically get this fishing rod to feed themselves for the rest of their startup lives. We're seeing already the benefits of this program. We are enabling these companies to create high value-adding solutions. We are enabling these companies to use technology in their matters. We have close cooperation with most of the universities and vocational schools when it comes to using these for these students to use resources that are available here. And if there's a goal we're trying to reach with this program, an example could be given from France, from its capital Paris, where they have Station F, which used to be the freight station, and it was revamped, it was reconstructed into the biggest startup hub, not only in Europe, but in the whole world. Is it an example that Kaunas, being, I don't want to lie, but it has to be around 20 times probably smaller than Paris itself, is the example we should follow? Dream big. Obviously, we will not reach the extent that Paris has, but the way how they were able to connect different stakeholders to achieve these kinds of results is exactly the way we should be moving as a city. And that's what we started last year. We are developing the program this year by involving more public partners into the program, and that's probably the future of city's startup ecosystem up until we can expect it to develop. Thirdly, transport. Transport probably is the place where innovations are very, transport pulls innovations like magnet and vice versa. There's a lot that can be done, and there's a lot that's currently being done. On a city's perspective, we were trying to analyze how the places where our residents live correlate with the places where they work. And by analyzing this information, we can see the most probable routes they'll be taking. That's how we can also optimize our public transport. That's how we can optimize the places where parking spaces are being located. And that's how we can also construct other public services that are necessary for the society in general. So if most of the people generally live in the big block residential areas that are in the northern part of the city, we can see that most of the places where people work are located, well, that's normal, right? Either in the city center or in one of the main streets, the Savanorių Prospektas, that's, well, the longest street in Kaunas, and at the same time hosts most of the commercial businesses here. And if we try to analyze the way how people tend to commute to their workplaces every day, we see that most of them are still choosing their own mode of transportation, their own automobile, instead of using public transport. Why? That's the question that every single municipality is trying to answer. Oh, I'm sorry, no inputs. Okay, back in the game. So that's the question that every single municipality is trying to answer, and we're doing that, just that as well. When we're trying to link the places where people live, the places where people work, where are the places where kids go to school, we are able to generate some traffic management tools, which are either the green waves, meaning that public transport can go easily from one place to another. Those are also the fast track routes that either are already in place or will be planned for the nearest future. But again, it shows how both innovation can help us as a city to manage our public services better, and at the same time, how innovations are motivated, how the city needs these innovations to take more effective decisions. So it's a two-way street. We feel that the more we invest in innovations, the return on this investment, it might not come the same day, it might not come in the next year, but in the long run, it's going to be the most effective decision we have ever taken. If we go into the more, let's say, details, we also have different public transport solutions, which are also being used to make the payment for your public transportation ticket easier, which we hope will help people to use public transportation even more. But at the same time, it gives a lot of data for the municipality to understand how people are moving from one place to another. It helps to distribute our resources in the most effective manner so that not a single cent is being wasted from the public point of view. Sharing economy is obviously one of the places where we still feel that it's the future of development of the cities, it's the future of development of innovation, and we are only seeing the first signs of it, right? We are seeing bicycles, we're seeing e-scooters that you can either rent for half an hour, use it, leave at another destination, but we feel that there's so much more that can be done, and we are eagerly waiting for that. There's not that much that a city can do on its own. Usually there are private businesses that make a decision to come into one or another location. Obviously the density plays a huge role. Obviously the total number of potential users plays a huge impact and role in making these companies either come to the city or not. So that's why as a city we are extremely interested in, one of our goals is to attract as many people to live in our city as possible, because the more internal demand we can create in the city, the more businesses obviously we will get into our city, right? So that's simply letting the snowball from the top of the mountain roll down, and while rolling down it collects more snow and becomes bigger and bigger. We are happy that we were able to, well, convince to some extent Bolt, ever since last week, I suppose, to come to Kaunas and also use cars, not as a research, which stands for probably 22 hours per day, but instead the cars are now being used by the drivers well, throughout most of the day, and it solves not only the parking problem for most of the people, but also allows you to reach your place even if you don't have a car or if public transport is not an option. If it's not an option, it's a problem of public sector, and we're trying to solve it, but as of now, we are still facing it. Energy and utilities, again, it's a huge thing that we are still waiting for clear answers, how it can be developed, how innovations can help to optimize these processes. There are a lot of innovations around the world. For instance, Amsterdam is an example I actually love. Of course, there might be some specifics because of which we cannot apply some of the techniques that are being used in Amsterdam here in Kaunas. For instance, in Amsterdam, if you're an owner of your house, and if you put solar panels on the top of your roof, you can sell the electricity generated on the top of your house for others in the free market. It's being done on a blockchain technology, which was a part on which we have talked about today during other speakers as well. But generally, being able to generate it and sell on the market is one of the ways, one of the very good examples how innovations are helping us to use our resources effectively, how the prices can be lowered down because of competition increasing in the market, and that's the way how probably our economy should move in the future. I would love to give you examples of how Kaunas is dealing with the energy and utilities. I just don't have cool enough examples yet to show you. If we organize this conference next year or in 2 years, I'm pretty sure we'll be able to show you some very nice examples. Protection and environment. CCTV is probably one of the keywords that's being used in this sector. In other countries, it's a very prevalent option, especially in the UK. I would say the CCTV are covering most of the places. There are both public cameras and private cameras that are attached to, well, entrances of restaurants, entrances of gas stations and all that, which are working on the same system to help prevent crimes and help ensure security in the city. In our country, and well, in Kaunas region, it's still not as popular as it could be. The number is being increased both by public initiatives, both by private initiatives. And we, well, if we look into the statistics of criminal acts that were conducted per year, the number is decreasing annually. I mean, there's a saying, correlation doesn't mean causation, so we cannot say that the increase of cameras necessarily meant that the crime rates would decrease, but generally we do feel that there has to be an effect of CCTV development in the city, the innovations that are helping to solve some social problems. Are we allowing our citizens to administrate the services? Yes, to a normal extent, in my opinion. There's a lot of public services that otherwise would be done by the municipality that are for quite some time now being outsourced or opened for the society, for private businesses to perform these services through a totally open bid process where they are competing in terms of price, where they are competing in terms of services that they can provide. So municipality A doesn't have to have that many employees anymore. B, they can get people from private businesses who often have more competences, experience, and knowledge how to conduct one or another activity. And by doing this, we're able to achieve much more than we would be without these sorts of initiatives. Innovations can also help for addressing the problem of direct democracy. So we are, apart from the mayor's elections, we're not seeing much. Apart from the municipal elections, we're not seeing much where the residents are actually able to express their opinion about one or another question in our city. One of the examples was happened in Kaunas last year, where the municipality ran a poll on its website asking where this big statue should be built in our city. The residents voted, and apparently the place where it had to be built was the area around our castle, right? So that's one of the examples how it can be done. Obviously, the municipality is keen to create more opportunities for its residents to vote and decide on these actions. There are some problems, but again, we have to understand that other cities are moving forward and have developed more, let's say, innovative ways of solving the direct democracy problem. Surprisingly, one of them is Moscow, which at the end of 2017 introduced that they would be doing their municipal elections by using blockchain again. This question was stipulated and discussed a lot, whether blockchain can be the solution for voting, as usually we know that e-voting usually has concerns with security, whether my vote would be securely accounted for and all that, and blockchain could be that technology to solve that problem. So Moscow is experimenting on it. It could help to solve these problems. If Moscow can, why cannot we? So that's the question we continually asking ourselves and trying to find the answer if our case would be at least as effective as they are reaching over there. Lastly, the services to the citizen and how innovations can help us to increase the quality of life between every single one of us, right? There's a very common stereotype and saying in Kaunas that if you have to meet with someone, you can tell them that I'll be there in 15 minutes, and you won't be lying, because it is possible to get to any part of the city within 15 minutes. If you look into this map, the central part of town, the, let's say, thickest red, can be reached in 5 minutes. If you're somewhere in the city center, the second layer can be reached in 10 minutes, and in 15 minutes, you can reach even further. I mean, I cannot even get all this place in one map that you can reach in 15 minutes. Does that help in terms of convenience? Of course. A lot of people are telling, you guys in Kaunas are having these favorable conditions, you do not know what traffic jams are, you can be happy and all that. Yes, to some extent we are. The problem, what is the problem with this slide? You can reach all these places with your own vehicle. It's not accounting for public transportation. And it's a problem that the municipality is facing. We want as many people to be using public transportation, and we feel that if we can get the public transport to reach the same levels as your own vehicle in the same amount of time, we can get the results. What are the results currently? Here. The blue area is the place you can reach with public transportation in 15 minutes, while the red layer is the place which you can reach with your private car in 15 minutes. The difference is huge, and we have to admit it. If we consider time being the utmost priority of most people when they're deciding on their mode of transportation, and because there were a lot of studies being done, if you increase the price of one ticket in public transportation from €1 to 150, or even if you make the ticket price go down from €1 to whatever, 20 cents, the number of people using the public transport will not change that much. Price is not the issue. The issue is right here in the background. The fact that you cannot reach the destination that you want to reach in the fastest manner possible. And that's the issue we as a municipality will be trying to solve in the nearest future. So that was more or less all that I wanted to talk about today. Obviously, I'll be waiting for any questions. I hope that I'll be able to answer at least part of them. Obviously, some questions are yet to be answered, either because the technology is not developed or because we as a municipality are not rich enough to implement it into our solutions. But anyway, we are more than interested to hear your opinion. Thank you.